In the heart of the savannah, where the sun kisses the earth and legends are born, stands Pride Rock. For generations, it has been a symbol of peace and prosperity, ruled by the wise and just Lion Kings. This is the story of Lagerbukoo's ambush, the fight for the very soul of Pride Rock. Our story begins under the reign of King Mufasa, a time of balance and harmony. The circle of life was respected, and every creature, from the crawling ant to the leaping antelope, lived in peace. Mufasa, with his queen Sarabi, ruled with a gentle but firm paw. Their son, Simba, was the heir to the throne, a playful cub full of curiosity and mischief, destined for greatness. But destiny often has a cruel sense of humor. Mufasa's younger brother, Scar, consumed by jealousy and a lust for power, watched from the shadows, his heart a barren wasteland where no love could grow. He saw Simba not as a nephew, but as an obstacle. Scar, with his cunning mind and silver tongue, allied himself with the hyenas, the outcasts of the Pride Lands. He promised them a future where they would never go hungry again, a future built on the ruins of Mufasa's kingdom. The stage was set for a tragedy that would scar the Pride Lands for years to come. Scar lured the young and trusting Simba into a gorge, and with a terrifying command, unleashed a wildebeest stampede. Mufasa, ever the brave king and loving father, raced to save his son. He succeeded, placing Simba safely on a ledge. But as he struggled to climb to safety himself, he found his brother looking down at him. In that fateful moment, Scar, with a chilling whisper of "Long live the king," sent Mufasa falling to his death. He then manipulated the grief-stricken Simba, convincing the young cub that his father's death was his fault and that he should run away and never return. Lost and alone, Simba fled into the desert, leaving the kingdom to its dark new ruler. Scar, with the hyenas as his enforcers, ascended the throne, and a dark era began. The circle of life was broken. The hyenas overhunted, the herds moved on, and the once-lush Pride Lands withered into a desolate graveyard of bones and dust. The vibrant colors of the savannah faded to gray, mirroring the despair in the hearts of the lionesses. Meanwhile, far from the suffering of his home, Simba was found and rescued by an unlikely duo. Timon, a wisecracking meerkat, and Pumbaa, a kind-hearted warthog. They taught him their philosophy of Hakuna Matata, no worries. Simba grew into a magnificent young lion, content to live a carefree life, deliberately forgetting his past and his responsibilities. He was happy, but a part of him, the king within, lay dormant. Years passed. The Pride Lands suffered. One day Nala, Simba's childhood friend, desperate to find help for her starving pride, ventured far from home. By a twist of fate, she stumbled upon the long-lost prince. Their reunion was joyful, but it quickly turned serious. Nala described the horror that had befallen their home under Scar's rule and begged Simba to return and take his rightful place as king. But Simba, still haunted by the guilt of his father's death, refused. He was not the king they needed. He was an outcast. It was then that Rafiki, the wise old mandrill and royal advisor, found him. With his eccentric wisdom, Rafiki guided Simba to a magical pool of water. As Simba looked at his reflection, he saw not himself, but the powerful image of his father, Mufasa. The spirit of the great king spoke from the clouds, his voice booming with love and authority. "Remember who you are," Mufasa urged. "You are my son, and the one true king." This celestial encounter ignited the spark of courage within Simba. The past could hurt, but as Rafiki wisely said, you can either run from it or learn from it. Simba chose to learn. He chose to fight. He was going home. With Nala, Timon, and Pumbaa by his side, Simba returned to the Pride Lands. What he saw broke his heart. The home he remembered was gone, replaced by a wasteland. But seeing the suffering of his pride and the arrogant tyranny of his uncle, his resolve hardened. This was his land, this was his family, and he would fight for them. The stage was now set for the final confrontation, a battle for the future of Pride Rock. This brings us to the moment of truth. Lagerbukoo. Now, you might be wondering, who is Lagerbukoo? In the original lore and the tales passed down through the savannah, Lagerbukoo is an ancient Swahili term for a treacherous, calculated ambush. It's not a character, but the name given to the master plan that unfolded. That day, a battle of wits and strength, courage and betrayal. It was Simba's ambush on Scar's reign as a storm gathered, mirroring the turmoil below. Simba confronted Scar on Pride Rock. The lionesses, emboldened by the return of their true king, rose up against the hyenas. The battle for Pride Rock had begun. Timon and Pumbaa, using their unique style of Hakuna Matata warfare, created diversions and chaos among the hyena ranks, proving that even the smallest creatures can be the greatest of heroes. Nala led the lionesses with fierce determination, reclaiming their home with every swipe of their claws. At the peak of Pride Rock, amidst the flames sparked by lightning, Simba faced his uncle. He cornered Scar, not for revenge, but for justice. He gave Scar a chance to confess his crimes and leave forever. Cornered Scar momentarily admitted his guilt, but then, in a desperate act of cowardice, he blamed the hyenas. Unbeknownst to him, his supposed allies heard every word. Then, in a final, treacherous move, Scar attacked Simba, throwing burning embers into his eyes. The fight was brutal, a clash of muscle and will. But Simba, fueled by the memory of his father and his love for the Pride Lands, found the strength to overcome. He mirrored the very move Scar had used on Mufasa, sending Scar tumbling over the cliff edge. Scar survived the fall, but his fate was sealed. He landed among the hyenas he had just betrayed. They had heard his words, and their loyalty, built on false promises, had shattered. They closed in on their former leader, and in the shadows, sealed his dark destiny. As Scar was consumed by his own treachery, the rain began to fall. It was a cleansing rain, washing away the years of drought and despair. It washed the ashes from the land and the sorrow from their hearts. Simba ascended Pride Rock. He let out a mighty roar that echoed across the plains, a roar that announced the return of the true king. The lionesses roared back in response. The king had returned. The Pride Lands began to heal. The grass grew green again. The water flowed, and the herds returned. The circle of life, once broken, was restored. Simba, with Nala as his queen, ruled with the wisdom of his father and the compassion he had learned in his journey. And soon, Rafiki stood atop Pride Rock once more, presenting a new cub to the cheering kingdom. Continuing the great circle of life, the story of Lagerbukoo's ambush, the fight for Pride Rock, is more than just a tale of lions. It's a timeless epic about facing your past, embracing your destiny, and the undying power of hope. It teaches us that true courage isn't the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. It shows that no matter how dark the night, the sun will always rise again. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey back to the Pride Lands. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the battle for Pride Rock, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more stories from the worlds we love. Let me know in the comments what your favorite moment from this epic tale is. Until next time, remember who you are.